So, Sue, just to get us started, what's up with the hair? What is all that hair and the makeup? And what's all that about? Did you ever get to the bottom of that?
Not really. I think, when did it start, John? Maybe about the 1990s? The wigs? Yeah. Yeah, I think it might have had a bit of an American influence. I think what a lot of the older people say is in the old days they used to do curlers in their hair and they'd not sleep for 3 nights and then they'd take the curls out and then they'd go on the stage and it would flop. So actually a lot of people quite like the wigs because it saves them the problem of doing curlers in their hair.
Yeah, it's a kind of
it's
a
quite
pageant
interesting
element,
when you first go in and see it. It's like John's mum says, it does look like a Shirley Temple convention and you go, wow, this is amazing. And you think it's quite odd, and then you start watching them dance, and kind of the hair and the wigs and the dresses fall away, and you watch the feet, and you think this is pretty astonishing, especially if you see a 10-year-old like John or Brogan or Julia dance. I'm not even into dance, and I defy anyone to watch some of that dancing or Joe's feet for 3 minutes and not be impressed. I think it's remarkable.
Yeah, really remarkable. My other question is, why does nobody take a calculator? I'm watching it thinking, God, if someone had a calculator, they could save themselves a hell of a lot of tension.
We had a huge amount of problems with the scoring system because we thought, do we explain it or do we, in the edit. Yeah. And in the end, we decided that you could have spent half an hour trying to explain it and you'd have been none the wiser. So we thought maybe you just get it from watching the kids' faces because it's really difficult to explain. So I know it's a bit confusing, but we didn't think we could do that much to help it.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you met lots of people from all over the world on the film. Very few of them seem to be Irish, which I was quite surprised by when we first saw the first cut. But did you ever get any closer to understanding why people do this? And why it's such an obsession, or is it still a bit of a mystery, do you think?
My feeling was that it's like sometimes it casts a spell over people and they don't quite know why. And when I started doing it, a lot of people said to me, there'll be lots of pushy parents. And actually, there are some, and there's some people living vicariously through the success of their children. But what I found there was much more of was a whole bunch of very bemused parents who were sort of dragged into it by the kids who fell under the spell of the music and they couldn't stop dancing. I think that would probably be John and his dad. That's what happened with you, wasn't it? You were dragged into this world you didn't know about because John started dancing. So it is like it casts a spell. I don't think I ever came to the bottom of it. And you'd think, why? Some of those teachers are quite scary. And you think, wow, why do the kids put up with it? And they absolutely adore the scary teachers. They love them. And they just want to do well for them. I don't understand it.
Do you think it's closer to a sport than conventional dance? I mean, there are sporting elements, aren't there? The competition, compared to the way the competition works and the way that it's based on drill and constant practice to do the same thing over and again.
For me, the kids are athletes in many ways, but it's also an art form. As you saw, when you see John and Joe and little John dance at the beginning, and you just think, this is fantastic, this is art. So I think they have to do the basics for the competition, but I think it allows them then to really move into much more expressive art form. I don't know, as I say, I wasn't drawn to this world because it was dancing. I was drawn because it was a world I didn't know anything about, and for a filmmaker to discover that no one else had ever been allowed in before, that's that's really good. You want to get in. I just want to say one thing. There's someone else there was Ruth's here, we've been in this now for 2.5 years working together. Joe Russell is the cameraman, he's here as well. And I think I've just found a marvellous cameraman. I'd never worked with him before. He's very young. A lot of people were a bit concerned, I think, about me working with Joe because he hadn't done that many documentaries. I think he did a fantastic job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Were you surprised by the international reach? Obviously that was part of the impetus for making the film in the first place, that you'd heard or you'd been told that it was more international than you might have thought. But were you actually surprised at the extent of that?
Oh, yeah. There's Irish dancing now in 30 different countries. So it's in Taiwan, it's in China, Korea. You've no idea where it is. It's in South America, it's in South Africa. It's also in Australia and New Zealand. The only reason we didn't film in those countries, because of course I'd have really liked to, is they won't have reached the standard of dancing yet.
I thought you were going to say it was our poxy budget.
It was our proxy budget. No, we had a good budget, but we couldn't go to Taiwan or Korea because they're just beginning, and it'll take them quite a long time until they get kind of international standard and world standard. So in Europe, they have they're dancing in Russia and Poland and Holland and various other European countries, but very, very few of them are up to the standard of being able to qualify for the Worlds. So it is amazing. Yeah.
It is, yeah.
It's a lot of countries.
Yeah, it is. So are there any questions from the audience? There's a lady here in the front. If you could just...
Thank you for that, Sue. I was absolutely mesmerised, and I know nothing about dancing, but you had me in tears twice, so it was incredible. Just two things. First one was, I was really impressed with the amount of characters that you introduced and then followed through, and I was just wondering whether that was a decision you made to follow quite a few characters. And the second one was a plea to the dancers, could we have another dance?
Okay, I'll waffle on for a bit while they put their shoes back on.
Yeah, put your shoes on.
I've done quite a lot of my films. We've got Grant, my exec, and I have a name for it. We call them Hydra-headed films. I quite like variety, and I think different characters bring different things to the film. And Ruth and I spent quite a long time looking at other feature films about competitions about dancing. And I was quite nervous. 90-odd minutes is a long time. And I felt if we really wanted to reflect the sort of global reach of Irish dancing, we needed to be able to have quite a lot of different stories and characters. I think it works. I think it was... We were pushing it a wee bit because you get a bit confused. And there's one or two characters you just say, oh, for God's sake, stay with them longer. But then you get someone like Sandun and you think, yeah, it's good he's there. And the Russians, you just couldn't not have them.
We were going to cut the Russians once.
Yeah, he wanted to cut the Russians.
Maybe we should cut the Russians, but I'm really glad we didn't. I mean, we almost did.
Yeah.
But I think it's great because of the spread and the feel that it's a really international phenomenon.
Yeah.
I think you need that.
It was hard, though, because there were discussions in the cutting room about whether we should... There were long discussions, actually, about it. And I think we just about got away with it because it does give you that internationality. And we did... I usually... plan things really carefully. I think I must be a control freak, and I usually only shoot what ends up in the film. And on this one, I was a bit scared because I thought, this is 90 minutes, this is long, this is big. And we did do one other story that we cut, and we looked at, and in the end we took it out because it was compromising the stories that are there. So we did have one story that we dropped, but we're showing it in Chicago.
We are going to get an extra dance, but the dancers are still preparing. So has anybody else has got a question? This chap here, just at the second row.
Thanks. Hi, Sue. Beautiful film, really nice. What's the difference in terms of executive supervision between making a film for the small screen and making a film for cinema? There are a lot of executive producers there.
No, there weren't actually.
No?
We had a fantastic time on this film. We had Sam, Ewan Angus, and Leslie Finlay from Creative Scotland. 3, that was it. And we had 3 viewings, and that was it. And
I mean, Sue knows. The truth is that Sue knows what she's doing, really knows what she's doing, and that's why part of the reason why. She would be able to pull down the funds to make a feature film. I mean, there's not many people in the country who can do that, and she's one of them. And so, honestly, it didn't require a lot of execing. It really didn't. I mean, we went and saw the film, we enjoyed the first cut, and we made a few suggestions, and then we enjoyed the second cut and made a few suggestions, and then there we were. So it wasn't... I hope you didn't feel that we kind of over-tinkered with it. I mean,
No, it was great. And I tell you what I really, really did learn. I mean, for me, at this stage of my career, it was a fantastic learning curve. I had 3 very, very, very exceptionally lucky things. One, I found Joe, the cameraman, fab. The second one, where I learned a huge amount as well, was we had a film editor called Colin Money, who's a feature film editor, who's fantastic. And he doesn't do that many documentaries, and I was exceptionally lucky to get him. And we had quite an interesting relationship in the cutting room, because I'd say, well, why do you keep using the elliptical shots? And why can't we just sort of... I was being a bit television about it, and wanting things more spelt out. I mean, if you look at my television films, they go vroom, 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 they're fast. And they're packing information in, and Colin was saying, no, let the shots do it. You can go for the elliptical. You can allow things to unravel. Huh?
I really felt I was there.
Yeah. And I just learned a huge amount from Colin, because he taught me the difference between the way you approach a film for television and the way you approach it for the cinema. And the other thing he said was, we mustn't let the commissioning editors watch it on a small screen, ever.
I think that's a really important point, because I think
Huge.
that you can only slow the pace down from a normal frantic TV pace to a slightly slower, more considered pace when you can actually see the nuance of expressions on people's faces. And so I've watched this on video, obviously, on a small screen, and I've watched it on a big screen, and it plays much better on a big screen, because in those moments where TV hasn't really got time to kind of let you make your own mind up about a scene, if you're watching it on a big screen, you can actually see thoughts go through people's minds, and you can see their faces showing what they're feeling inside. And so you can actually afford to take your time, can't you?
It's been fascinating watching that, and I hate when people. It's really pathetic. I hate when people watch it on a video. I hate when we have to give screeners, because it's just an experience up here that's interesting. I think it's better. It's different. But of course you can't say that, because they never really believe you. And I think the other thing that happened, that we were very lucky, is that the score. I think the music's very good. I think the sound is astonishing. And again, Colin, the editor, takes a huge amount of the credit for that. And Ruth and him, we laid guide tracks that I think were exceptionally good. And I have a friend who happens to be an Oscar-winning or Oscar-nominated composer, and I sent him the DVD just to see if he could have a look and see if he could suggest someone that we could afford who could do it. And luckily for us, Patrick Doyle fell in love with the film, and he did the score. And I think that, again, brings another dimension to it, scale. So anyway, we're taking it next week to America.
Yes, yeah. I think we've got time for just one more quick question, if there is any. If anybody else got any questions? There's people waving to me wildly at the back of the theatre. At the back of the theatre there, just in the... Yeah, sorry, I can't really see, 'cause I've got a light shining right in my face. Yeah, that's fine. We'll see you in a minute, John.
Love to know how you picked who to follow.
How we picked who to follow?
Yes.
The first 8 months, Ruth and I were sort of unfunded, because first of all, we had to get access. That wasn't that quick. We took a long time. And then once we got the access, we also started doing a research. And for me, that was absolutely critical, was doing the research, the casting. This film will only work, any film actually, really only works if you get the casting right, and you spend an awful long time. And I think we heard about Joe quite early on, and obviously you think, oh, this is interesting, isn't it? A family who moves from California to Birmingham. So that was sort of already up there, number one tick.
I love that bit where they're talking about the weather in England. That's fantastic.
It is rubbish, isn't it? And we had various other stories, but I mean, it took us a very long time. Ruth and I met a lot of 10-year-olds, and I'm not brilliant with kids, and we just sort of went, Christ, we can't get any of them to chat. Very chatty mums and very quiet children. And we were getting quite concerned, because we knew we needed a 10-year-old going for the first time. And then we met Brogan. And you just think, wow, where did this kid come from? She was astonishing. She was a 10-year-old with a sense of humour, which was just amazing. And then once we found Brogan, it was sort of obvious. We had to find who Brogan's biggest competition was, because then you have the 2-year-olds. And John, we met because we went to visit Joe Bitter and John Carey, and then we met John, and I just fell in love with him. And I hate to say this, John, but we didn't choose you because we thought you were going to win. We just loved him. So when John won, and Joe and I were, do you remember that, Joe, that moment? We were on John Carey and Mandy in the audience, and I practically fell over when he won. It was just so exciting to be in that moment. It was terrific. And I mean, what Ruth and I used to do is we had a whole list of possible characters, and we'd sit and go through them and say, well, what does that story bring to the table? What does that story? And what we needed was variety, that no one story brought the same thing to the table as another story. So that was really what decided who made it and who didn't.
Great. Anybody else? Anyone else? There's a chap here in the 5th or 6th row.
Yeah, I seem to think it may be more emotional nightmare for the parents' side. Like that's the father, how he feels.
He's not here, actually. I think he's nipped off to the loo.
Oh, okay.
You might have to work. He's at the very back.
John, how does it
John,
make
do you
you
want to
feel?
come down and answer that? Yeah.
How emotional you get?
Yeah. Very. So this is John Senior. Come down, John. There you go. Take the mic.
I can't dance, so don't worry about it. Yeah, very emotional, actually. My wife goes to most of the festivals because I go with the boys for football, but when I do go, I sit there and really get involved in it. And if he doesn't win, it upsets me, but when he does win, he does a really good job, and he's dedicated all the time, never stops dancing. So it is very emotional for all the parents who go.
Thanks, John.
Should we see some more dancing?
Yeah, let's.
Why don't we do that?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for coming. Yeah.